Well, folks, it seems America's favorite reality TV host turned politician has decided to produce another season of economic uncertainty. That's right. In this past week of March 31st and April 4th, 2025, several significant events unfolded that could and will impact the US economy and were influenced by new policies from President Donald Trump. And by influenced, I mean they were about as subtly introduced as a coked-up badger in a china shop. Buckle up, because we're about to unpack a trade war that makes the Boston Tea Party look like a polite disagreement over biscuits. So, picture this. It's April 2nd, 2025. Birds are chirping, spring is in the air, and President Trump, with the grace and diplomacy of a rhinoceros in a tutu, decides to slap a 10% tariff on all imports coming into the United States. That's right, everything. From Chinese electronics to European wine, if it's coming into American ports, it's getting hit with a tariff. The stated reason? To address the trade deficit, which, let's be honest, is about as effective as trying to fix a leaky faucet with a hammer. Now, you might be thinking 10% doesn't sound like much, and you'd be right if we were talking about, say, a tip for a particularly surly barista. But when it comes to global trade, a 10% tariff is like throwing a hand grenade into a game of Jenga. Things tend to get messy very quickly. And boy, did they ever. You remember that $2.5 trillion that just seemed to vanish from the global economy? Yeah, that wasn't a rounding error. That was the stock market's rather emphatic response to Trump's tariff announcement. It seems even the usually bullish denizens of Wall Street aren't particularly fond of economic uncertainty sprinkled liberally with a dash of potential global trade war. The S&P 500, that bellwether of American economic optimism, took a nosedive steeper than a politician's approval rating after a particularly nasty scandal. Tech giants, those supposed invincible titans of the digital age, shed value faster than a melting ice sculpture of Donald Trump's ego on a summer day. Apple, Nvidia, and their ilk collectively lost $470 billion in value. To put that in perspective, you could buy every single person in America a medium-sized latte and still have enough left over to build a reasonably sized pyramid out of solid gold. Now, if you thought the rest of the world was going to take this lying down, well, you clearly haven't been paying attention to how international diplomacy usually works, because, surprise, surprise, nobody likes a bully, especially one who throws tariffs around like confetti at a particularly aggressive ticker-tape parade. China, never one to miss an opportunity for a tit-for-tat trade spat, retaliated with the economic equivalent of a roundhouse kick to the kidneys. A 34% tariff on all American imports. Check. Expanded export restrictions on rare earth elements, crucial for pretty much every piece of modern technology. You betcha. It seems someone in Beijing has been studying the art of the economic pressure point. And just in case you thought this was just a playground spat between two economic superpowers, the European Union and the United Kingdom decided to join the party too, because nothing says we're not happy with you quite like slapping tariffs on iconic American goods. Bourbon, blue jeans, Harley Davidsons. If it screams America in that slightly cheesy, overly patriotic way, it's about to get a whole lot more expensive across the pond. So, what does all this economic saber-rattling mean for the average American? Well, if you like your consumer goods cheap and your job security high, you might want to brace yourself, because things are about to get bumpy. Economists, those perpetually worried souls who seem to exist solely to remind us that our economic house of cards is one gust of wind away from collapse, are predicting that these tariffs are going to make everything more expensive. We're talking an average annual household income reduction of $3,789. That's right, folks, get ready to kiss that dream vacation goodbye. And it's not just frivolous things like avocado toast and artisanal beard oil that are going to get more expensive. We're talking about essential goods too. Cars, electronics, clothes, everything you need to live a vaguely comfortable existence in the 21st century is about to take a price hike. Industries reliant on imports, like those that manufacture electronics and automobiles, are facing higher production costs, which in turn could lead to layoffs. Because nothing says stable economy like a whole bunch of people suddenly finding themselves out of work. Now, some might argue that this is just a temporary blip, a minor economic speed bump on the road to American greatness. But this whole trade war debacle has a whiff of something far more concerning. The ghost of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930. You remember that one, right? The one that economists generally agree helped turn a recession into the Great Depression? Yeah, that one. See, for decades, the world has been moving towards globalization, towards freer trade and interconnected economies. But with this tariff tantrum, the Trump administration seems to be trying to stuff that genie back into the bottle. And it's anyone's guess what will happen when it inevitably explodes. This isn't just about trade deficits or even economic policy. It's about a fundamental shift in how America sees its place in the world. It's about turning inward, about embracing protectionism and isolationism, and frankly, it's about as appealing as a plate of cold, soggy fries. Now, the administration will tell you that this is all about jobs, about bringing manufacturing back to America and making the country great again. And yes, the US did add 228,000 jobs in March 2025, exceeding expectations. But before we all break out into a rousing chorus of happy days are here again, let's take a closer look at the bigger picture, shall we? Because while those job numbers might seem rosy at first glance, the unemployment rate actually edged up to 4.2%. And with the tariffs threatening to disrupt supply chains and push prices even higher, it's not exactly a stretch to imagine that those job gains could easily evaporate faster than a Trump administration official's credibility during a congressional hearing. The truth is, nobody really knows what the long-term effects of this trade war will be. But one thing's for sure, uncertainty is rarely good for the economy, and right now the only thing more plentiful than tariffs seems to be uncertainty. So yeah, buckle up, America, because it looks like we're in for a bumpy ride. In summary, the implementation of the 10% global tariff has led to immediate financial market volatility, prompted retaliatory measures from key trading partners, and raised concerns about potential negative impacts on the US economy, including higher consumer prices and potential job losses. What started as a seemingly simple policy decision has quickly snowballed into a complex web of economic and geopolitical consequences, leaving many wondering whether this is a strategic masterstroke or a colossal blunder. One thing is certain, the world is watching, and the outcome of this tariff tussle will have far-reaching implications for the global economy and America's standing on the world stage. Stay tuned for more updates on these developing stories.